celebrate a win right now. So a little over a year ago, almost after Easter, I joined your hotspot,
Yeah.
and I went on a date with a guy who tried to force himself and kiss me. And you said something that stuck with my head, and I just want to thank you. You had me ask, what makes you think that's okay?
Oh yeah. I remember this. I remember this. Yeah.
Okay, I finally got to use that. So I broke up with a very kind man on Father's Day. Again, he just wasn't meeting any of my needs emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially, any of it. I felt like I was just pulling my weight. So, but it ended peacefully. So I have no animosity towards him. And there's a guy who works across the hallway, in a bike shop, and I'm friendly with him. I'm not, I don't give him any inclinations whatsoever. For all he knows, I'm still in a relationship. I don't share anything like that with him. It's just, we talk music. Hey, how are you doing? Hi, goodbye. And Saturday, he crossed a very weird boundary. And I have people approach me like this all the time. I don't know what kind of vibes I put off, but I used your line, and I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, because it stopped him dead in his tracks. And this is the start of me reclaiming my space and my energy and speaking up for myself. So he said, hey, if you ever want a massage, I have a massage table at my house, and I would love to give you a massage. You work hard all the time. I see you in there. You're busting your butt, and you're one of the hardest workers. And I said, okay, what makes you think that's okay to ask that? And his eyeballs spun around in his head, and he's probably going to lose his job because of it.
Okay.
But I just wanted to thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, you're very welcome. And truly, I've actually been recording this. So do I have your permission to use this on an upcoming video?
Oh, the audio?
Yeah, I'm doing it right now.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so but let's unpack this for a moment. Is that okay with you?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Okay, so what makes you, there's kind of thing is what makes you think that's okay for that, but but there was another aspect to what I shared with you last year was, what am I doing that makes you think this is okay?
And that's what I said. What am I doing that makes you think it's okay to ask me, that you can put me on a massage table and offer me a massage? You don't know me.
Yeah, and let's think about that. And in a man's mind, he's thinking very selfishly. He's thinking with his lower chakra, his penis.
He's married.
And he's married.
Even more disgusting.
Oh my God! And he's even married.
Either way, but he's married.
Well, I think what saddens me today, and where there's a shift in our society, is what makes people think this is okay. It's because we've really, to some degree, lowered the boundary, lowered the standards for physical intimacy. And this isn't a problem of and I'm not victim shaming here. I'm just simply saying is we become a society where we think, oh, we can just go after what we want. And we have there's no repercussions for our actions. So when you said that to him, first off, bravo to you. I forgot to mention that earlier. Bravo to you. I know you wish you had said that to the guy that kissed you, that you didn't want to have, or that make that attempt.
Yes.
But I think there's a deeper issue here. And I know you had shared this with me personally, was the question about emotionally unavailable men, or really emotionally constipated, emotionally unconscious men. And I think this is kind of indicative of what's going on in our world today. Mostly, in some sense, men have been trained, men have been taught as young boys, particularly baby boomers and Gen Xers. And I know you are on the cusp of a Gen X millennial from an age standpoint. But I think many boys were raised to stuff their emotions, not show vulnerability. Vulnerability is weakness. Violence equals masculinity. This is, if you think about what football is all about, it's supposed to be this, there's supposed to be this conscious awakening, but it's all this violent actions that suggest competition and masculinity. And I'm not shaming football either. I'm just saying we were taught at a very young age without the emotional wherewithal of how to open up our emotions, how to express oneself. So I know particularly women are frustrated in the dating marketplace. They're frustrated because they'd like to be with men who have a capacity to be emotionally expressive. And I know you said to me earlier that you find yourself possibly bored because you're seeking intellectual stimulation. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Even on like a 5D level, I don't think that there's anyone that can match the type of conversations that I want to have. Like, it kind of freaks them out. It makes them run. So I have to just contain this and keep this weird type of stuff to myself. Like, if that makes sense. And so I have to dumb my brain down and have just what I like to just call, 3D conversations with these people. And I want to talk about like really, like the dark stuff, like the wild stuff, like the spiritual stuff. Like, I want to I love that type of stuff,
So
and, I can't, it is what it is. I mean, I may be alone in this forever.
Well, can I jump in on this?
Sure.
Okay, so really quickly, for everyone who's listening, 3D, 4D, 5D. Okay, if you choose to Google this, I invite you all to type in 3D, 4D, 5D consciousness in Google, and you'll get this interesting report, if you will. But 3D consciousness is oftentimes very ego-based. It's very performative. It's about right or wrong. It's about competition. That's the 3D world, and predominantly we live in a 3D performative world. Now, 4D is really the beginning stages of awareness, awakening, enlightenment. This is where human beings do personal development, self-help, spiritual work, and therapy to start to heal their childhood wounds and their adult traumas that cause them to have negative patterns, limiting beliefs, insecurities, and fears. And also, it begins to shift from the recognition that our actions have consequences. So when this guy said, this married guy says, I want to give you a massage, all he's thinking in a 3D world, I just want my needs to be met. I don't really care about your needs, and has no awareness that that was an offensive comment. Now, does that mean he should go to jail for it? Probably not. Okay. But maybe, and he needs the shit kicked out of him by a couple bros in the parking lot. Maybe if we had a little bit more big brothers coming in and beating the crap out of some people, we might start seeing a shift in consciousness. Okay, now 5D.
It's an old-fashioned woodshed.
Yeah. Well, as you know, Julie, I'm your big brother. If I could be there for you on a first date, I'd have the shotgun loaded at his face and saying, what's your intentions with my little sister? Now, Julie said something that she likes to operate in a 5D, okay? Now, 5D is unity consciousness, it's love consciousness, it's empathy, it's compassion, but actually living in that state is a rarity. I kind of believe you're probably in 4D, but you want to be in 5D because I think, and this is just a personal judgment on my part, so don't take it personally, but I think that's like reserved for the Gandhis of the world and the Mother Teresas, in my opinion. Okay, but what Julie said was, and I want to read a quote to everybody who's listening to this, because what she said is a meme that I have that I'm going to share with everyone on the camera, and it says, I hate small talk. I want to talk about atoms, death, alien, sex, magic, intellect, the meaning of life, faraway galaxies, music that makes you feel different, memories, the lies you've told, your flaws, your favorite scent, your childhood, what keeps you up at night, your insecurities and fears. I like people with depth who speak with emotion from a twisted mind. I don't want to know what's up. And Julie, how did you feel about that share?
To to go deeper than that.
No, you want to go even?
Like,
Okay.
so I'm a cosmetologist. I do small talk every day, so I have to always engage my brain. And even as a child, like I was a writer. I've always felt like off and weird, even as a little girl. Like I dream journal, I write, I do all these things. Like I'm an artist. Like I play piano, like I paint, I do all these things, and just I guess around my area, it just seems like there's no one feeding that. But yes, that was very appealing, but I want to even take it further.
Okay, so okay, I love that, and we're going to unpack that for everyone who's listening. So what you just described is wanting to go deeper, and we always talk about that. And what is deeper? It's really about intimacy. Intimacy means into me you see. And we're talking about this in the construct of a romantic relationship. Of course, you could do this with family members. You can do this with people that you work with. But we're going to today talk about it in the construct of a romantic relationship. So there's a term that I think is used in therapy and other modalities, the term unpacking. And what I look at unpacking is you take a certain circumstance. So for example, you're on a date with somebody and you're asking them about their past relationships. Now, when you ask about past relationships, the idea of going deeper is to really get to the what was the emotional effect of the ending of the relationship, what caused the relationship, and it requires being curious. So I'm curious, I'm sharing with everyone. Here's a great way to introduce this. So I'm curious, what caused the ending of your most recent relationship? Now, here's the thing. If somebody starts bagging on their past relationship, what the 3D world does, 3D people blame everyone else but themselves. 4D people say it was 90% the other person's fault and it's 10% my fault, or they take full ownership or they take half ownership. But at least 4D people are willing to look at their part. And 5D consciousness looks at it from the vantage point that we simply were misaligned with each other. And while I can give you the specific details, we both contributed to the ending of our relationship. That's the way a 5D person will look at it. Most likely, this is just the world according to Jonathan. But as you're asking that question about their past relationship, you're asking them to go deeper. Like, how did that affect your life? Like, that would be a great question, right, Julie? How did that affect your life? How did that experience affect you? And did it have ramifications maybe for your children? If you had children in your life, if you had ramifications for your friends? So being curious means drilling down and asking deeper questions. That is intimacy. That's getting inside the person's heart. And I suspect, Julie, you're a sapiosexual, which means you're attracted to intelligence. You're attracted to depth. Is that right?
I've never heard of that term before,
Okay.
but yes.
Okay, so everybody, I want you to Google sapiosexual. Sapiosexual means that intellect and emotional maturity is incredibly sexy. I mean, the person doesn't have to look like Brad Pitt or George Clooney. It could be, it could be John Goodman, and you'd still be going, oh my God, this guy's the sexiest guy around, because they have the capacity to be vulnerable, to be authentic, to be transparent. So the question then is probably, Jonathan, where do I meet a guy like that? Well, it doesn't work that way. At first, it operates by acknowledging where you're at, okay? And you can meet these people online. You can meet them at a yoga studio. You can meet them at a retreat or a workshop. It just requires going a little bit deeper from the very beginning, asking those tougher questions. I call it radical honesty. Radical honesty is about being vulnerable, about being authentic, being transparent, asking deeper questions than what's up. And I recognize.
I call it hot. I'm open, honest, and transparent.
Hot. Oh, hot?
Yeah, hot. I'm hot.
But that acronym doesn't work. Open, honest, and transparent.
Honest, open, and transparent. Honest, open, and transparent.
Okay, everybody.
Right from the go.
Julie calls it hot. Honest,
Yes,
open,
honest,
transparent.
open,
I call it.
transparent.
Now, everybody, I call it that. Vulnerable, authentic, and transparent.
I like that. like that.
And, in the beginning of a relationship, I think it's important to establish the agreement that we're going to approach this from a truthful place, like operating, saying, hey, one of the fundamental principles and what I commit to in the beginning of this process is that to operate from a place of trustworthiness by operating from this place of authenticity and transparency. Why I'm saying this is making agreements with one another. In other words, when you say to someone, hey, can we both agree to operate from a hot, open, transparent perspective? And a guy, okay, I know some men will just be deer in the headlights, Julie, okay?
They
But at the same time, you're going to get someone to go, yeah, sure, that's okay. Now, does that mean they're going to live up to it? Not necessarily. We can't guarantee that. But certainly by establishing that standard, by establishing that boundary, it puts the odds more in your favor. I think I want to say something else, Julie. We have a problem here in our dating environment. We spend a lot of time getting to know people on that 3D level, that superficial level, without really talking about the agreement to explore a relationship. Like, do you want to explore a relationship? Like, ask that question. And do you want to explore that relationship with me? I think women in particular, oftentimes, if you watch my videos, I say they wear duct tape, In other words, they're afraid to speak up. And I'm like, believe it or not, when you speak up to the right guy, he's doing the chicken dance, excited, because the right guy is going to appreciate that you're speaking from a vulnerable, authentic, transparent place. So, okay. Well, first off, before we wrap up, and we're going to wrap up in a few minutes, I want to again thank you for the acknowledgement. And again, the phrase she said, what am I doing that makes you think this is okay, to someone who's crossed a boundary? So after this conversation, what are you going to do next from a dating perspective?
Currently, I'm just going to learn more from you.
Okay.
What I like to do when a relationship ends, and I haven't been in one, and this is my first one after my divorce, like 6 years ago.
Okay.
So I'm just going to take time. I'm going to rest, fuel myself. Like, what can I do better next time? Like how can I maybe what can I learn from this, basically? So I'm not in a hurry to meet anyone. I'm not that person. I always say, and I know a lot of women like on your channel and who follow you say the same thing. We, have such a peace within our lives with solitude, and we're doing things, we're fulfilling our needs anyway. And so I'm not in a hurry. So I'm just going to recover from this and, detox from this, do some more spiritual work, some shadow work, and jump back on and continue to learn from your YouTube.
Well, I want to piggyback on something you said. So a couple things. I'm going to give you some tools to use in a moment, but Julie said something really interesting, and it reminds me of what a friend of mine says. And I'm going to butcher this a little bit. She says, the sweetness of you has to exceed the sweetness of my solitude. And that's the Clip Note version of what she says. And I kind of like that. Like after my significant relationship ended a year and a half ago, almost coming up on 2 years now, it's interesting because I actually really enjoy my own company. And I love my own company. In other words, it's going to take someone really special to break me out of that. So 4 questions I ask myself, and Julie, I want you to write this down. Do you have a pen and paper handy?
I will get one.
Okay. While she's getting that, everybody, I'm going to share with her in just a minute, basically 4 questions to ask herself as she's in this process of healing. So the 4 questions are, the first question, what positive things about myself did I learn from this experience? I'm going to repeat it, so don't worry. What positive things about myself did I learn from this experience? What positive things about myself did I learn from this experience? Let me know when you're ready for number 2.
I'm ready.
Okay. Number two, how have I healed from this relationship? How have I healed? And really quickly, when I'm talking about healing with everyone, it might be healing a childhood wound. It might be healing your relationship with your parents. It might be healing a relationship, a previous relationship. Ask yourself, how have I healed? Okay. In other words, if you have an anxious attachment style, if you have an avoidant attachment style, have I healed through this experience? And by asking these deep questions and being really self-reflective, and there's two more questions I'm going to have you write down. Have you written that down?
I have.
Okay. The second or the third and the fourth are kind of the same. The first one is, or the third question is, what was good about this relationship? Like, look back at everything that was about it. What was good about this relationship? And then the fourth one is, what am I most grateful for about this relationship? What am I most grateful for about this experience? And good and grateful are kind of in the same yoke, if you will, but it's more about acknowledging the good and then recognizing, and most of the time, what I'm most grateful for is the growth, the healing, the expansion of my consciousness, the awareness of where I maybe compromise my boundaries and that sort of thing. And really, what I'm most grateful for is the awareness of how to maybe operate different in a future relationship. I think when we operate from this place of doing inner work, it helps better prepare us for the next experience. See, sadly, Julie, we have adopted this belief that, we have to find the one. And
there's a lot of the ones.
Well, each one is a learning curve for ourselves. And maybe if we get lucky, if we find that person that we actually like being around, where we're good friends with one another, where we laugh and can play together, and hopefully are attracted and have great sex together, because that's part of the equation too. And they're an emotional grown-up and they're responsible in their lives. Maybe we get lucky that way. I think, honestly, and this is something I've just even observed in my own life, I think the problem with dating here in the United States that hyper focuses on attraction, entertainment, romance, and physical connection. And because of that, it's a crapshoot if you build friendship afterwards. However, if two people can actually build some friendship before we get onto the sex bandwagon, and I mean real friendship, not the, oh my God, you're the most amazing person on the planet. I could see us getting married. I could see us traveling together. Oh my God, you're so wonderful. Oh, by the way, can I give you a massage and then we can sleep together? And I'm being a little tongue in cheek. Okay.
Yeah. Would you call that love bombing?
Well, here's the thing. Okay, since you brought it up, we'll expand this conversation for a second. You know what? I have love bombed gazillion times in my life. Okay. When you're amped up on dopamine and oxytocin and testosterone and serotonin, when you're doped up, you're like, oh my God, you feel this way. And it's almost imperative, I believe, to really be conscious and take sex off the picture. In fact, you know what? I think people should dress like crap and meet for coffee as their first date, because that takes that sexual inclination off the table, and maybe you can develop a friendship. Now, I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek when I say dress like crap, but if you could take that sexual part of it, be casual, have coffee first, and you'll get all these other coaches. Oh my God, if a guy can't take me out to dinner and spend lots of money on me, he's not worth my time. And I'm like, but first off, that's arrogant thinking on my part, or from my vantage point. But you know what? Yeah, start by a few coffee dates. I have a dear friend of mine. I'm going to a party at their home in a couple of weeks, and they met during COVID, and they went for a walk in the park as their first date. And that takes the sexual piece off the table and allows you to get to know someone at more of a heart-centered level. So I'm going to recommend that you adopt that, do these homework assignments of reviewing your past relationships. And then my last invitation for you, as you're, whether you do online dating or some other form of meeting someone. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with online dating. It's still the number one place people are meeting. is put together a quality profile of yourself, and most importantly, ask a really deep question right from the very get-go. Pick something from their profile, ask a deeper question about it, find out more. How did you feel when you were in France, they took a picture with the Eiffel Tower. How'd that make you feel? How'd you feel being in a foreign country? Was there any complications while you were there? Why are we so afraid? Like, I get that we can start with hi. And then the other person says hi, and that takes 2 days for them to respond. And then the follow-up is, how's your day going? And it takes 2 days to respond. It's going good. How's your day going? And it takes another 2 days to respond. And I'm like, fuck this shit. Let's just go in deep and ask a radically, but by the way, it's such a benign question. How did it feel being in front of the Eiffel? I'm just picking on Paris for a moment, because you saw it in their photograph. How did it feel? Were you amazed at the Eiffel Tower? Was there an emotional connection for you? Did it bring it back to your roots? Whatever it is, you know what? It starts, if you want to go deeper, Julie, then lead with it for yourself, and let's see who meets you. Are you willing to give that a shot?
Am, and I will say I was very proud of myself with this relationship because we did kind of take it slow. I mean, we dated for almost a year, 11 months, and I mean, we weren't even intimate until 6 months in.
Wow.
That was really, there were some good qualities about him. I just couldn't get inside his head until the day that I ended it. Then he just let everything go. I had no idea that he was holding all this in and all this, I don't want to say resentment towards me, but I had no idea he was feeling that way, And I'm like, well, maybe the next time that you get into your, another relationship, then maybe you can learn something from this also. But yes, all of this sounds lovely.
Okay. Well, I'd like to unpack that another time. I'd like to talk about how it took how you didn't find out all these things earlier, but let's save that for another conversation, okay?
He was a simple man. He was a polar opposite of my ex-husband, which I liked. So there were some qualities that I did like. He was stable. He was calm. He wasn't explosive. He wasn't angry. But then, as time went on, I realized he had zero emotion. There was, you don't get excited about anything. So,
I get it. Well, that's why it's called dating, because holy fucking shit, trying to figure out another human being was taken in the dictionary. So, well, Julie, can I reach into the telephone right now and give you a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug?
Thank you. Yes, hugs back. And thank you so much for your time and for your words of wisdom and golden nuggets.
Oh, thank you so much. Stay on the line because I'm going to talk to the audience. Hey, if you found value in this conversation, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. As always, if you like my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. I'm going to say bye to everyone and give you a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug if I have your permission. Have a wonderful day. Be well. Thanks. Bye now.